I'm in Thorpeness in Suffolk and I've come here to paint a house, but it's not a normal house, put it that way. It's a really pretty little village. So much to sketch here. So this is the mere, and there in the distance is the house I want to sketch. So I don't know if you can see that ahead of me. That's the house in the clouds. It was a water tower and was then converted into a house. There's also a windmill opposite. If I've got time, I'm going to sketch that too. I've been here to sketch it before in summer, but the trouble is in summer you can't really see it so well because obviously the trees have all got leaves on them and there are absolutely tons of people around. So I've come back at a quieter time of year. I'm going to try and find a little spot to put my stool so I'm not in the way because this is a road and not get run over, and paint this and hopefully this. So I think I've got the perfect view here, and I've just asked a lady if it's okay to sit here, and she said that these are all second homes and people aren't here. So let's get started. So I've decided on this view here. There is a big tree in the way, but I can see what's behind it, so I think I'm going to treat it like I do cars. Treat it like a ghost tree. I might put some of the little twigs in, but just try and pretend it's not there, if that's actually possible. Okay, so I've decided on my orientation. I'm going to just put the house in the clouds in itself. I could have done it landscape and put in some of the other stuff. I have got a bigger sketchbook with me too, so I might do 2 sketches while I'm here. Maybe do the other one, put more of the surrounding things in too. But for now, I'm just going to start off by looking at my proportions, because it's quite important obviously that I fit the whole thing in the page, and this is exactly the sort of time when I'm very likely to start too big, come down here and then realise that the front door's off here somewhere. So I'm just holding my pen up and trying to get some sort of idea of the proportions. The black bit is like the length of my pen. If I go up, it's then about half. It's quite tricky, this. And then also the angle. After going on about how great that ruler is, I forgot to bring it with me. So I'm going to just guess this by using my normal trick of thinking like of a clock face, of the hands of a clock. Right, we'll start. Let's just make a start, otherwise it's going to be dark. So I can feel it's really damp in the air, even though it's quite warm and sunny, because my ink, the paper's really absorbing my ink. About halfway up is where that top window is. And I'm just making sure I don't do it too big, because there's quite a bit of space around it. I do love trees, but that was really right in my way. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floors. Yes, got it in. Very dark under there. I'm actually going to go over those in a gel pen when I get home. Blacken in under here, because it's quite deep recess there, so that just makes it clear that that's overhanging a little. And I'm going to put in and hold my pen quite upright so I get thinner lines. And just put in this wood. And a nice arched door down here. And again, I think I'm going to come back in with a gel pen there to bring out those window pane, you know, the frames. And then here, there's lots of chairs and tables, and these are quite hard. I find these quite hard to draw. But they're quite higgledy-piggledy. So I am just going to draw some basic shapes and some chair legs and things. I think you can see what they are. Gives the impression. And there's a little climbing frame thing here. It's not my focal point, but it's at the front, so I'm just going to draw it in really faintly. And there's some branches here that I'm going to put in. And then turn the pen upside down and fill in some of the twigs. Now I'm just debating on whether to put in all of the lines going down here. I think I'll do what I do with bricks. I'll put some in, but not all of them. I don't know if I like that effect or not, really. It's okay. Okay, so there's the finished sketch, and obviously I haven't put in that big tree at all, but I think I'm happy with my decision because it just would have dominated it and there'd be no point really drawing the house in the clouds. So now let's put some paint on. So I'm using my Winsor & Newton pocket field box with the professional colours. It's my favourite go-to urban sketching kit, to be honest. I can probably balance it somewhere. We'll find out. So I've just about managed to balance the palette on the other page of my sketchbook. So wish me luck. I'm using an Escoda size 12 travel brush. Comes to a lovely point. So I'm going to start with that reddy colour at the top. This would have been much easier if I hadn't done something in portrait view today. That's typical, isn't it? Well, everything I do is usually landscape. And here we are. Never mind. So I'm mixing a little bit of red with that kind of burgundy colour. Sorry, I don't know the exact colour name. I can look it up when I get home. Nice and loose as always. And I'm going to use the same colour for down here on that little roof. And then next I'm going to go for some green. And I'm going to mix that sap green with a little bit of that red, just to tone it down a little. Just varying it a bit by adding a little bit of yellow. Now I'm going to take some Payne's Grey and do that main part of the building. I don't mind if it runs into that green tree a little bit because it will just soften the edges slightly. Mind you, it's gone in a bit too much, but it doesn't matter. And then I want a little yellow ochre for those garden chairs. Now stuff is taking a long time to dry because, like I said, it's quite damp even though it's very sunny. I'm just going to go over some of this a little bit more. I don't think I'm going to be able to get any shadows in at the moment. Yeah, you can see it's really pooling there. I'm going to leave it alone. No, I'm not. Just going to spread that out a little. See, that red that I did first still isn't dry either. Likewise, I'm not going to attempt doing any sky at the moment. It's just no point. It will just run into any other paint that's near it. So I think I'm going to call that a day for the painting now. At least no accidents occurred. So what I've decided to do while I'm here in this spot is turn round and paint that windmill. But doing it while I'm here means that hopefully this one will get a chance to dry. I just dropped the book, to be honest. You can see I've just put my hand all through that bit. Right, this is quite a tricky little thing to draw actually, because it's not your normal sort of shapes and things. So I'm looking at my highest points, which are obviously the sails. I'm going to go for it with the body of the main windmill. And this is going to be one where I kind of join lines onto each other because there's a lot of lines that really don't make sense to my eye. Now, I haven't gone low enough down here, but it doesn't matter because I can use that as just one of these lines of the pieces of wood. So when you make mistakes, don't automatically think, oh, that's ruined my drawing. Quite often you can find a way to sort of not correct it, but disguise it, shall we say. That propeller thing is moving around. I better draw it quickly before it moves again. There's no point in my eye trying to make sense of this because it just doesn't. So just got to try and draw what I see. Just look at it as shapes and not try to make sense of it. Hands are actually getting really cold now. I'll move to the sun after this. It's quite breezy. That's why that thing's moving around, I suppose. It's hard to see which piece of wood goes over which. The trouble is with this bit, you can't see which piece of wood is in front of which piece of wood, if you see what I mean. So you can't think, oh, I'll draw the foreground first and then the ones behind, because I can't see what's the foreground. So I've just drawn a bit of a mess of lines, to be honest, and I think it gives the impression of what I'm looking at. So it's a bit of a wonky windmill, I have to say. I think it might fall over if it was very windy. There, wonky windmill. So I've taken a photo of it because obviously the shadow is going to move and I'm getting quite cold. I've put my paints precariously balanced on my rucksack. So wish me luck again. I did make an attempt to paint it, but the paper was just so damp it was quite frustrating, really. It's getting really hard to paint now. It's just completely absorbing it. So I don't think I'm going to get much more done today here. Everything's just running. Yeah, it's just time to pack up and call it a day. So while I'm here, I just want to do one more sketch of... So I did do a quick line drawing of one of the houses around the mere, but as my ink was just being absorbed into the damp paper, I did decide to go home. So I think it's time to go home now because it has got really chilly. It's going to be dusk soon. When I got home, first of all, I added a sky to the House in the Clouds sketch by putting some clean water around it and then dropping in some French ultramarine. And then basically just leaving it to do its thing. If you follow this approach, make sure that you've just changed your water and, you know, you've got completely clean water when you do this. And then using a white jelly roll pen, I added the window and door frames. And then for the windmill, I just added a fairly simple watercolour wash, really, just to finish it off. I wanted to pick out that shadow that was cast by the sail on the bottom left. I added a few more shadows just to give it a little bit more depth. And tried to bring out a bit more definition in those leaves to sort of frame it, really, because I couldn't get any definition at all when I was on location because the paper was so damp. As you could see, everything was just bleeding into each other. And then again, I added some clean water and dropped some French ultramarine into it, again just to give a little hint of the sky. I hope you've enjoyed that little trip to Thorpeness. I'm definitely going to come back because there's so much to sketch here. Thanks for watching and happy sketching.